How's it going, everybody? Bryan Alvarez here on Wrestling Observer Live. We are here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sundays, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern. It's Friday here on the show, so we're going to take your feedback on everything that happened over the past week. You can give us a call here today, 1-800-878-PLAY, 1-800-878-7529. Text messages, 425-780-7566. Lots to get into here today on the program. Royal Rumble is coming up. Smackdown tonight. We got some matches announced for Smackdown, which will reveal some stipulations for upcoming matches. And if the house shows are any indication, I'll tell you what the stipulation is probably going to be for the match announced tonight. If you want to call about Rocky Johnson, if you want to call about the AEW versus NXT battle from this past Wednesday night, you're welcome to do that. We have the ratings for that battle. And the good news is that NXT back charting again. I believe they were 31st this week after dropping all the way down to 53rd in the all-important 18-49 demo. AEW in the top 5, and for the first time ever, AEW beat the NBA. This coming the same week that they signed a new television deal, which will keep them on the air for at least the next 4 years and lead them to being profitable in the year 2020. I don't think there's ever been a promotion that has gone from 0 to 60 as quickly as AEW has in terms of business success. So we can talk about that here today and a bunch of other news as well. Don't forget, tomorrow, Conor McGregor returns facing Donald Cerrone, UFC 246. If you want to talk about that, you're welcome to as well. The return of TNA, not Impact Wrestling, TNA, one night only, coming up at WrestleCon. Back in a moment with more Wrestling Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. A lot to talk about here today. We got Smackdown tonight, Conor McGregor fighting tomorrow. And, of course, as always, we have the ratings for this past Wednesday night. Wednesday night ratings are in. Last night's Bash at the Beach themed episode of AEW Dynamite, essentially even with last week. 940,000 viewers. A 0.38 rating in the 18-49 demo. The latter number was good enough for 5th on the night for cable TV, up 6% from last week. NXT down 3% total viewers. They averaged 700,000. However, the 18-49 was 0.21, up 11%. So they did finish in the top 50, 31st on cable in that category. And once again, AEW beat NXT in every demo, except for those over 50, where NXT had a very narrow lead. The biggest gap was men 18-49. AEW doubled NXT, 0.51 to 0.26. Only major sports competition was an NBA game on ESPN, averaged 1.128 million viewers. There was another game that AEW beat in the ratings, so there you go. Now, the press release that was put out where they talked about the new television deal that AEW has signed, which will keep them on the air 4+ years, will make them profitable here in the year 2020. It was noted in that press release that if you add the Live Plus 7, AEW is doing 1.2 million viewers every week on average. So very, very strong numbers. Strong enough in 18-49, as we talked about repeatedly. That's the money demo, and because their numbers were so good in that demo, they were able to score a new and more lucrative television deal, $45 million a year for 4 years, and that includes also a split of the ad revenue. I don't know what the ad revenue split is going to bring them in, but a conservative guess would be somewhere in the range of maybe $10 million a year. So very, very likely that AEW is making $55 million a year off this television deal. They're doing 100,000 buys on average on pay-per-view. They are not overspending on talent, although the talent they do have is making very good money. So overall, an excellent business model. AEW.
They've had a pretty good week, huh? Yeah. A little bit better luck than you've had with your
don't even talk to me
technology
about it, Mike.
there, but yeah,
I'll punch you through this microphone.
Regardless of what anybody wants to think about the product, if you look at this purely from a business standpoint, It has been a tremendous week. It has been a tremendous first year plus, very little bit plus now for AEW. So not a lot else you could say. They had the announcement yesterday as well for anybody that missed it that they're going to be adding a second program on a Turner cable channel, probably TNT, but we'll see what happens. It could end up anywhere. It could be Cartoon Network. Who the hell knows?
It's not going to be on the Cartoon Network.
I know, but look, the fact of the matter is it's going to be on there somewhere, and they've got a big investment from Turner now that works for both sides. It loads AEW up on some money, gives them security, and it locks what seems to be a very good product that draws demos that they want in for TNT. So, hey, again, throw everything about the wrestling aspect of it out and just look at it from a business point of view, and it's a win, and any win that's good, it may not be good for WWE, but it can be said it's good for the stability of the wrestling business going forward. At least with two pillars, it's better than one.
All right, so tonight on Smackdown, a stipulation will be added to Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin's match at the Royal Rumble. WWE hyping that the winner of the Reigns-Robert Roode tables match on tonight's SmackDown will get to pick the stipulation for Reigns versus Corbin at the Royal Rumble. So, I mean, first off, it's a tables match, and so you know what that means. You can be beaten without doing a job. Somehow, I'm sure that Roman Reigns will be screwed, Robert Roode will win the match, and then the heels will announce that the stipulation for the Royal Rumble is the loser must eat dog food. This is the stipulation they've been doing at house shows. Obviously, Roman Reigns wins. He rubs Corbin's face in dog food. I don't know if Corbin actually eats any of the dog food, but he does. And so I would bet you anything that that's going to be the stipulation. Now, maybe they'll decide that the dog food stipulation is going to take place like at the February pay-per-view or something like that. Maybe they'll do something different for this one, but my guess will be that that is the stipulation for the Royal Rumble. And hey, the dog mascot was dumb. This mascot out there barking Roman Reigns' theme, I mean, it was just cringeworthy. But you know what? Roman Reigns is the big dog. And Baron Corbin and Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode beating him up and whacking him with a cane and essentially pouring dog food all over him. I mean, that's a nice, solid, old-school heat angle. I have no problem with that angle, especially because that angle is going to pay off with a loser eats dog food match. I know that some purists aren't going to like that, but the fact of the matter is, you know, as we're watching here in these Wednesday ratings and the success of the Lashley-Lana segments, I mean, fans want pro wrestling. I mean, they don't just want work rate. That's abundantly clear. It's been clear. That's been clear forever. I mean, you watch WCW in the early 90s or the mid-90s, everybody raved about the cruiserweights, okay? But WCW, when they were at their peak, it was not a cruiserweight wrestling show. It was a pro wrestling show, and you had Ric Flair out there tearing his clothes off, and you had wacky angles, and you had main eventers, and you also had great wrestling. That's what people want in their pro wrestling. They want a little bit of everything. And I see no problem with a loser eats dog food match. Zero. I like it.
You should, because you're old school like that. Absolutely. Will this be as good as the one in Memphis with Jimmy Hart and Bobby Eaton losing to Coco Beware and Stan Lane? Probably not. Although if Bobby Eaton could do everything, including feign getting sick while eating dog food. And who could believe that all of those old school guys, your Ole Andersons, your Bill Watts, your Jim Crockett's, your Don Owens, your Bob Geigels, Fritz von Erichs, everybody kind of looked down on Memphis, or at least a lot of people did. And what is the wrestling tradition that actually has lasted the longest, and what actually did last the longest in competition with WWE as it expanded nationwide and worldwide? Memphis wrestling, and that's kind of what we're getting. It's not going to be as good, but look, 31 flavors. It works in all aspects of wrestling. We talk about it with AEW, but it works with WWE too, and the bottom line is, if you can make the people believe in it, that's really all you need. And Baron Corbin, as much as people hate him, to see him eat dog food, people will be all over that one. So, yeah, no worries there. This is actually a good angle. Whether the wrestling's any good or not, doesn't matter.
I just feel like you need main eventers, you need top baby faces, you need top heels, You need a little bit of wackiness. You need a little bit of fun. You need to have baby faces winning.
Are you saying they need a well-rounded show?
Heels getting heat. Yes, they need a well-rounded. Everybody does.
How about
And
that?
actually, like AEW is doing a very good job of that. And you know what else? Raw has been doing a very good job of that lately because we've got, I don't like the wedding stuff, but that's something totally different from Buddy Murphy and Aleister Black, who are having phenomenal matches. And if you watch the show, I mean, they're giving people a lot of time to have matches on those Raw shows. Some good six-mans. I mean, they're trying to give you a little bit of everything. And SmackDown, like, I haven't minded SmackDown lately. I mean, there's certain things about WWE that I'm never going to like. Like, there's never going to be the backstage interviews, the commentary, it sucks. But as far as, like, the actual wrestling and storylines and everything, I mean, it's much better today than it was 6 months ago. It's much better today than it was last year at this time. I mean, there are improvements here, and I'm going to put them over. And the numbers are backing that up. Things are doing just fine. SmackDown, 2.4 million. Raw, it's going to be at 2.4 million this week. I know it was a bad number on Monday, but that was strong competition. Everything is going all right now. So hopefully they can continue that. You remember my prediction. This will be the best Raw and SmackDown Royal Rumble to WrestleMania period in many, many years. That's my prediction. Back in a moment, Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. This person here says, been meaning to text this and ask, but I saw Jericho on an ESPN Roundtable show promoting Bash at the Beach Tuesday. I thought ESPN was only WWE exclusive. I hope not. If they're a real sports, like worldwide sports authority, then they better be covering all wrestling. Although they do cater to WWE.
Well, yeah, look, obviously they're the biggest dog in the fight. Of course they are. That's the one in people. It's like Kleenex for a lot of people out there, not the people listening to this show, but for most people out there, say wrestling, they think WWE, WWF. That's it. Period. Point blank. That's it. That's all. Now, with that said, ESPN's got a lot of hours to fill. And the reality is there are a lot of named people in AEW, no matter how much people may want to put them down. And there are also people there like Tony Schiavone with the tie-in with Georgia football, Alex Marvez. I mean, there's a lot of people with connections into the sports and entertainment world. So it makes it really easy to have, Jericho on there with a segment. I mean, he's a name that people know. Cody Rhodes, people like that. Now, will you see Kip Sabian, Joey Janela, Sammy Guevara, will you see them on there? Probably not. Maybe Guevara should be, but, guys like Jericho, it's not going to happen often, but don't be surprised if it does. I mean, this is a guy that was on Dancing with the Stars, for heaven's sakes. I mean, there's that ABC synergy there from way back. I'm sure he's probably been on ESPN more than just this time.
He also says, is this a sign AEW is crossing over more with the casuals? Well, funny you should mention that. I mean, This person here sent me an email yesterday. He says, I have an anecdotal story regarding AEW. Don't know if it means anything, but I wanted to pass it along to someone who analyzes wrestling trends as part of their job.
So
I
who's
work
he sending it to?
at a fairly large state university, and I have seen a handful of Hikaru Shida shirts being worn by male and female students. Not as much as Bailey a few years ago, but enough to catch my attention. Also, the Bailey shirts were only worn by men. This is a mix.
Oh, God.
I joked about this to my brother, who works at a grocery store. He is a manager there, and he said something to the effect of, yeah, the kids that watch wrestling that I work with are really into her. Might not mean anything, but there you have it. Something to be aware of. Well, dude.
Hikaru Shida and Britt Baker should have been the first two people pushed. I'm sorry. They should have been.
Well, Britt Baker is one of them.
No,
yes.
But I mean, they should be in the title picture, and Nyla Rose should have been kept a lot stronger. I am not a fan of that, and this is the reason why. Not necessarily because of all of his anecdotal evidence, but Hikaru Shida's good, and she's marketable, and I don't know. They took a different approach to it, but I still think, no matter what you think about the women's division now, they do have some things in their pocket, like Shida, who is extremely marketable.
So there you go.
Sorry, go ahead.
What did Nyla Rose? Did you confuse yourself?
What do you mean?
You said she should have been pushed after you said the other two should have been pushed.
Look,
are you meaning she shouldn't have been pushed? Who should have been pushed here?
Well, look, do you believe that Nyla Rose has been used to her best potential in AEW so far? Especially with all of the hype you kind of had going in and the fact that you had such a small roster and she stands out. I mean, I don't believe so. I don't think they've really used her to her best ability. And I'm not saying that she should be out there in long matches or anything like that, but I think, her as a monster presence, and I know they have Awesome Kong and they moved in the direction that they have with her and everything, and that's cool, but I just really thought they were going to do more with her and keep her in a better position. She lost a lot right off the bat and hasn't really added a whole lot, unfortunately, in my opinion. And again, I know the fan base likes Riho a lot, but again, like I said, I already stated my case. I would have went more in Cheetah's direction, but
dude,
we'll see.
Obviously,
awesome. They've been right about Riho.
Hikaru Shida is awesome, but Riho has moved the numbers every single time.
Yes.
She's like Chris Jericho, except Jericho actually gets the highest rated segment.
I saw
every time she's on. Every time.
She is now in here, but here's the thing. If you see it live and you're in that building, because I've been there with it, you really see it. You can see it at home if you're a wrestling fan. You see how the crowd gets, gravitates to her, and people fall into her comebacks. I still don't know. I still don't know if the WWE wrestling fan, if the average wrestling fan, I'm still not sure if we'll see what happens as we go along here. I know she's got the highest ratings or whatever outside of Jericho.
Yeah, so people like her.
I'm still not sold on this.
I'm sold on it. I mean, people like her for whatever reason, and listen, there's not a lot of bright spots in that women's division right now. So Riho moving numbers, Hikaru Shida being in there. I mean, these are all positive things. You
know what I think it is too, and it's not to pile on because I do like her and everything, and I'm not saying the matches are awful, but I've been also surprised with how people have rated a lot of these matches and what they've thought of them. And I think I'm not saying people have graded on a curve, but I'm very surprised, especially when you watch the women of NXT, and then, again, you go back and you see some of these matches, and to me, they're just not the same, and I guess it really just comes down to my style of wrestling and what I like more.
Well, it's yes, Io Shirai obviously is much better, but here's the deal. There's two big things that Riho brings to the table. Number one, as we noted, she always draws viewers. Always. There's not been one time that she has not drawn viewers for her segment. That's number one. And number two, whatever you think about her work, whether it's your style or not, the fact of the matter is that 9 times out of 10, for whatever reason, she gets these people going nuts in the last couple minutes of the match against everybody. Sometimes these fans will sit there and they're dead for the first 5-10 minutes of the match, and then, I don't know how she does it, but she gets them going crazy for the last few minutes of the match. So that's pro wrestling. That's being a great worker. Whether technically in the ring she's as hard-hitting as you like, or she's as believable as you like because she's so small. Fact of the matter is she gets the live crowd into it, and she gets the television viewers into it. So I ain't arguing that one. Just not going to happen. This person here says, by the way, if you want to text us, 425-780-7566, or you may call 1-800-878-PLAY, 1-800-878-7529. This person says, I watch AEW first, and then I catch whatever the best matches of NXT are later, because I know what NXT is, but I never know what I'm going to get on AEW, that's for sure.
That's true.
Maybe the set will be different. Perhaps they'll have a butcher come out of the ring and attack their top star. Jericho could stab a guy in the eye with a spike. They might be on a boat. And there's often really good wrestling with matches they built for weeks, obviously put together by the guys in the ring. Seemingly no rules as to how it has to go. Well, I would like rules. But let me tell you something. So, WCW died, and the last few years, they sucked. But 95, 96, most of 97, Nitro was great. And it was the number one show. And they destroyed WWE. And even today, okay? Even today, when I go back and I watch WCW from 2001, I always watch Nitro first. Because maybe Nitro is going to be horrible like it was in the year 2000. Maybe Nitro is going to be awesome like it was in 95, 96, 97. Maybe Nitro is going to be just a hodgepodge of the best and worst of wrestling like 98. And maybe WCW is going to be struggling towards its death, but, like, it's okay now in the year 2001. Regardless, just like this guy said, I never knew what I was going to get on that show. It was always different. And win, lose, or draw, I knew that when I watched that show, I didn't know what I was going to get. Whereas WWF, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 2000, 2001, they had highs, they had lows, but at the end of the day, it's essentially the exact same show every week. Okay? So I always watch WCW first. And Tony Khan has said that his idea of AEW is actually very similar. And you can see it with, like, Bash at the Beach and everything else. He wants this to be like WCW in 95, 96, 97, when it was hot and when it was great, and when, for a period there, it was the biggest wrestling company in the history of the earth. So, they're succeeding. I don't want them to go to 99, 2000, 2001. I don't even think it's possible. Like, I do not think it's possible that they could be that bad and fall to that degree. I actually think it's impossible. But, you know, that is not the worst template. Those early years of Nitro. That show was fun. It was exciting. It was different. It was modern. They went to different places. They had Nitro parties. They had Nitro girls. They had shows at club. It was so fun and different.
DJ Ran.
Come on, they had cruiserweight matches. They had big stars. They had a mix of wrestling, different styles from all over the world. To this day, I mean, it's still so much fun to watch those first 3 years of Nitro.
Bryan, Mako Satomura wrestled on Nitro. The Great Muta wrestled on Nitro. I mean, you just
Liger. People out of Mexico.
Liger got hit with a tequila bottle on Nitro.
Yes. And you know what else? You know what else Nitro understood that WWE didn't? And that AEW understands and that WWE still doesn't? WCW realized that you're not too old at 35, 40, and 45. Now, should they have built the entire company around Hulk Hogan for like 5 straight years? Of course not. Like, those guys drew fans. Savage, Flair, Hogan. They drew viewers, but you got to make new stars. They never did that, okay? AEW understands a Jim Ross, a Shivani, a Taz, a Chris Jericho. Like, these guys can still be stars, and they can be there to help get over new stars. They can do what WCW never did. Back in a moment, Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live, Mike Sempervive. One other thing to mention here is your AEW champion right now is Chris Jericho. And Jericho was there in WCW, and he left. And they actually used him, I don't know if I could say they used him well, but they did not bury this guy. I mean, he won title after title after title after title. But he was in the mid-card, and they were never letting him be elevated. I mean, think about this. It's not even like, we're not going to let Jericho have a match or beat Goldberg. Let's just say, Jericho not only couldn't, like, beat Goldberg or whatever, not that he should have, but they wouldn't even let them feud. Mm-mm. They wouldn't even let them have a feud. So he left. And if you watch Jericho today, I mean, he is the champion, but look at some of these guys that he is working to try to get over. The Jungle Boy, I mean, all of the Lucha Express, he's or what do they call it? The Jurassic Express. He's trying to help get Sammy Guevara over. I mean, Jungle Boy, and Scorpio Sky as well. Neither of these guys are as big a stars as Jericho was when Goldberg wouldn't even do a match with him. So you could see that Jericho remembers all of this, and now he's doing what he can to try to do for some of these guys what nobody would do for him in WCW.
And Jericho did that on his own, and I could see you being a little bit peeved over the fact that he was building this feud with Goldberg that only he was building towards. They certainly didn't come up with it, but once it started to gain traction, you could have done something with that. And Chris Jericho could have been embarrassed in front of Ralphus and the entire personal security firm that he had. But they just couldn't bring themselves to do it. And it was too bad. They lost an opportunity. They got a great moment, at Halloween Havoc or whatever it was when he was at Nitro, wherever it was, where he actually gave him the spear on the ramp. Jericho would sold that like $1 zillion because I'm sure Goldberg also buried into him to do it too. But it's too bad they didn't. And when something does get over like that, you should be able to turn the other way and see that there's a little bit of business there. Do it. You got some interest there. Take advantage of it. It didn't have to last forever, but they should have struck while the iron was hot. And do you remember how they wanted to keep Jericho and how they were keeping him around, or what they wanted to give him on the way out the door? They actually made him the world television champion, and they had the Giant at his side. And I don't even think, if I recall it correctly from Jericho's book, he had no intention or want to be as part of the NWO, but they dangled that there and they put the TV title on him as if that was going to make him stay and not want to go to the WWF, which obviously we see how history has turned out. And it's amazing some of the decisions that they made and some of the short-sighted decisions that they made. Chris Jericho is not Super Kalo. Chris Jericho is not Dean Malenko. And no, insult to Dean Malenko. I love Dean Malenko. But Chris Jericho could have been something else, not just stuck as a cruiserweight, or at best a TV level champion heavyweight, along the ranks of a La Parka or something like that. Manabu Nakanishi, when he was there as Kurosawa, was an NWA TV or a WCW TV title contender. Jericho by that point was way past that stuff, and it was just unfortunate that they were never going to give it to him. And it was still a little rocky. Remember, everybody remembers the Rock, back and forth that Jericho had in the WWF when he went there, but people try to forget about the shiny vest and the Big Cat Curtis Hughes with him and that feud with the Road Dogg. That stuff was not so fun.
This person here says, are you guys concerned at all about AEW seeming to lose out on a few potential key signings recently? Jake Atlas, Bandito, Mercedes Martinez, and Marty. No, I'm not concerned. Marty, he could have been the leader of the Dark Order. I believe Dave reported he was going to be the leader of the Dark Order, but Marty got a deal, and I don't know for sure what he's making, okay? But I did hear from somebody, and the number that they gave me, it's ridiculous how much money he made to go and be one of the bookers at Ring of Honor and work for a bunch of different companies.
That's it.
Ridiculous.
Even if the money wasn't good, the freedom he seems to have on paper right now is so impressive. And the power that they've given him, the opportunity that they've given him, because it's not just unchecked power.
Well, hold on. My point of this is...
Oh, I'm sorry.
My point of this is, he was offered an amount of money that AEW just decided, we're not going to match that. AEW is signing people to very good deals, considering the fact that they're working 1 day a week, and they're doing a pay-per-view every 3 months. Very, very good money deals. His deal would have been multiples of that, okay? So, they didn't match it, and he went to Ring of Honor. And Mercedes Martinez and Bandito and Jake Atlas, Jake Atlas is very good, but, he always wanted to go to WWE. I don't even know if he considered AEW. Bandito was offered a great deal by Ring of Honor. I don't think, Bandito's great. I don't think he's going to be a game changer in AEW. I don't think Mercedes Martinez is going to be a game changer. The only one of those names, and I don't even think you could call Marty a game changer, but he would be very valuable given their audience to AEW. But he was given a ridiculous offer by Ring of Honor, and so that's where he's going. So no, I don't see this as, oh my God, they don't have enough talent, or they need new debuts. They seem to be doing, based on everything, they seem to be doing a fine job with what they've got. And if you look at their roster, these guys, some of these guys are on TV every other week at best. So that's one of the reasons they want another hour, is to be able to showcase their talent on a more regular basis. So no, I think they're fine. I'm not concerned.
Yeah, look, they have, even though we talk about AEW having a budget, and they absolutely do, if they so choose, they do have disposable income, but is the juice worth the squeeze? And with Marty, of all everybody there, if somebody could potentially be a game changer, it would be Marty Scurll. I think that's fair. I think if they wanted Mercedes Martinez, frankly, they would have signed her a long time ago. You had the opportunity to do that for a long time. I mean, she has been, it's been criminal. I didn't think she'd ever get signed. I thought her, Santana Garrett, and cheerleader Melissa would just never ever get signed. And Melissa's still on the outside and she probably always will be. But at least the other two have kind of gotten, at least to NXT now, which I never thought would happen. But is she going to change anything for you? She can make your division much better as far as working with all of these women and helping them out along the line. But unfortunately, for Mercedes Martinez, I think there's a lot of women who could probably do that. Jake Atlas, as you said, has always been a WWE fan. And regardless of that, is he a game changer? Is he a money maker? Right now, no. And they have a bunch of people that they still need to develop and get across. Same thing goes with Bandito. A feather in the cap if he was there, but realistically, you have a lot of guys, again, that you're trying to get over and you're trying to establish. And I don't know. I don't think any of those names, now when it comes to Luke Harper, when it comes to the Revival, when it comes to a few others, I think I would be more apt to try to throw around money there than to give to some people who obviously, it would be great if they got it, but they're getting it from somewhere else.
This person here says, I got my girlfriend to watch AEW with me last night as her first wrestling show ever. She was glued to the TV afterwards, got her to watch Young Bucks versus Lucha Brothers, and she loved it. That's one of the things about AEW, and that's why I think that WWE needs to relax their standards more. Because if you're trying to attract new fans, I mean, a match like the Lucha Brothers and the Young Bucks, which is just all high-flying, crazy, gymnastic-style high spots, that's going to draw in somebody who's never watched wrestling before. Well, a Baron Corbin match where he's holding a chin lock for 10 minutes, and it's just beating on the babyface, the traditional, that's great if you're a professional wrestling fan. But if you're not a fan, you've got to get people to go, whoa, what was that? What's going on here? And I feel that there's not enough of that in WWE. We got a little bit with that Buddy Murphy match with Aleister Black, but I mean, we need more of that. We need more matches where the guys are allowed to go out there and do a little bit more craziness to try to get somebody who's in your house watching with you interested. That on top of personalities, better interviews, better, all of this stuff. Less of this fake weird verbiage that people don't say. Like, your girlfriend's going to watch and hear these backstage interviews asking stupid questions and then stupid generic answers and then just the deer in the headlights look for a lingering 10 seconds. I mean, that's not going to capture somebody who's not a wrestling fan. It's not.
The verbiage and all that nonsense at the beginning of the show, and there's 9 million podcasts, so I don't know if other people have given AEW credit for this enough. We probably have not. Where Raw still opens most of the time with the 25 minute, half-hour, ridiculously long promo, for the most part, AEW doesn't, and they usually start off with action. And what was one of the great parts about WCW in their peak? When they would have the car crash opening. To me, if you don't have something serious that you want to nail open and really kind of put in everybody's heads, give me a crazy match to start the show. I love that. Either start it red hot with a meat and potatoes storyline and some serious business being conducted, or give me the wild match. And that's something that AEW does, and that's something that WWE rarely does. And you see it with NXT. You saw it with Lio Rush and Garza. How great that was to start the show. I mean, more of that, please. And unfortunately, while Kevin Dunn is there, they look at that long talking segment at the beginning as still being one of the most important things and key things that they do. And it's where they've lost the plot for a lot of us a long time ago.
Person says, with a new deal, what are the chances of a junior division? I think Darby and Sammy would make great stars in it, plus it would attract people frustrated at 205 Live being a demotion in WWE. I don't think they need a cruiserweight division, or a light heavyweight division, or a second division of any sort. It should just be the men's and the women's division. Yeah. That's
Most of those people aren't big enough anyway, frankly.
It's not even that. It's just like this cruiserweight division, this idea, like it was hot in 95 and 96. And I'm talking the 20th century. But it was hot then because nobody saw anything like that. And it was the first time anybody had seen that. Dude, you see that in the heavyweight matches now. I mean,
true.
if you've got heavyweights that are doing more dives than your 205 Live guys, your 205 Lives are never going to get over. And no, I do not want in 2020 a promotion where, okay, if you're under 175, because everyone's smaller in AEW, if you're under 175, you're in the junior division and you can do flips. And if you're over 175, you have to work an old school dinosaur style. You either do that, and that's going to be disaster, or you have a cruiserweight division where they basically work like everybody else, but like they're never allowed to intermingle. There's no positive to come of this. The cruiserweight, light heavyweight, that whole concept, it's dead and buried.
Well, wrestling's always been bad with it. Look, Chavez, De La Hoya, there's Conor McGregor, talking about this weekend. There's ways you can market those people, but you got to, again, it's a story for a different day on how you could actually make that work and how you blend it in. One of the biggest things you do is you don't give it its own separate show with purple ropes. That's a good start, and AEW probably wouldn't do that, but a TV title, something like that should be more along their lines.
Dude, even look at New Japan, like New Japan junior heavyweights, I mean, great matches and everything like that, but they're never allowed to break through. I mean, there are people in the junior division, they have to, quote, move up to heavyweight to get a chance in the heavyweight division. I mean, everyone there even knows, like, if you're a junior heavyweight, like, you're not headlining a dome show.
Yeah, but you know what, Brian? Rey Mysterio, look, you got to have everything. You got to have the right story. But, you know, a guy like a Darby Allin, you know, he's a main eventer no matter what.
Yeah,
so
because he's not in a cruiserweight division. Ray's not on 205 Live. Ray's in there with the heavyweights. He works a small man style with big men. That's what gets him over.
Danny Hodge is going to come after you.
Back in a moment, Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. One last email. My sister and I used to watch Raw religiously as kids during the 90s. She moved on. I still suffer through it. She visited twice recently during the holidays. I had her watch both it and Dynamite. She thought Raw was boring and illogical. Loved Dynamite. Said there was a fun energy with Dynamite, and the talent on Raw felt like robots. Well, yeah, that's what they think is good. These robotic promos and robotic interviewers and robotic commentators. It's a robot show. Maybe robots are the future. Maybe I'm wrong. I guess we'll find out. So listen, everybody. This weekend, I believe that Mike... I don't know if Jim Valley's around tomorrow. So he's still ill. He'll feel better soon, hopefully. And we will be doing Observer Live, I believe, Mike, Sunday and Monday. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, Dave and I are going to be doing Wrestling Observer Live from the Jericho Cruise. Now, to be honest with you up front, it will not be live. We're going to pre-tape and then get it to the studio, and that'll be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Then I'll be back, and everything shall be back to normal. So it's going to be a very fun week next week, so get ready. And that is it from here. I want to thank Mike, as always, callers and listeners, everybody in the studio. Talk to you next time. Wrestling Observer Live.